Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at helicopter charts. Now for those of you familiar with other types of charts, you get your VFR planning, you get your IFR planning, you get your en route charts, all those other things, believe it or not, us folks down in helicopter land also get our own special charts. They kind of look a little bit like this. Here we are. Now this is off of Sky Vector. If you're wondering how you can get access to this chart, it's actually really simple. Just go up here to New York, LA. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be plotting a journey. Little routes that you see marked out here. And we're going to be taking off from basically downtown Manhattan, zipping up to the Williamsburg Bridge, swinging down to Ridgewood Reservoir. Good luck finding that, by the way. And then we're going to basically be following this lovely avenue, and trust me, it's easy to find. We're going to have this lovely long racetrack. We're going to go back to the Belmont racetrack. This one is huge, but you can't miss this one. Keep cruising, keep cruising. We're going to get to Westbury. The easiest way to identify Westbury, by the way, and kind of a shame they don't tell you this, is there's a golf course right here, which is super simple. We're going to take a right onto the highway, come down here to the medical center. This place is also gigantic. It's not going to look quite the same as it is in the flight simulator, as it is in the real world, but take my word for it, in the real world, you can find this one. Then we're basically going to come straight east, right along here, and we're going to land at Republic, which is a pretty neat little airport. This is such a typical helicopter route, really, you could take either one. Now, there's a couple of things we want to know about these helicopter routes. Of course, we can see there's a temporary flight restriction for us. There's also a baseball game for the Mets. We're also going to notice the fact there's a lot of weird conflicting information for altitudes. One thing, for example, if you notice here, if I scroll down to the bridge, you'll notice it has a very, very tall altitude, which will, of course, limit our ability to cross it. Obviously, we're supposed to stay 500 feet away from structures. Kind of hard if we also have to stay under 900. So again, it comes with a neat little combination of challenges that makes it very, very fun. And if you look a little bit closer in here, you'll see that it's got this kind of little colored zone here. This is basically a safety zone that we can sort of operate our aircraft in with a little bit different restrictions without having to talk to all 50 people around this. But the reality is, as soon as you took off from downtown Manhattan, you get on basically the LaGuardia approach, and they'd immediately hand you off over to the kind of low altitude control over here at JFK, so that you can navigate through this super duper tight space. But believe it or not, you can actually get completely airborne up to altitude before you have to talk to anybody at 1,100 feet here. It's not until you cross this magical line here that you're going to be hitting into JFK's space, where you're basically going to be hiding underneath all the ridiculous amount of traffic that's going to be coming around us. Now, one of the things you probably noticed is I took the time to sort of mark out each one of these headings in here. The reason I did that is so that we'd be able to figure out roughly where we need to be. The also nice thing about the headings is it gives me a good idea of how long it's going to take between individual positions. For example, I can see here that when I'm taking this initial point here, if I click on it real fast, it's going to take us about 6 minutes, 1 minute, 4 minutes, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, this will be a pretty tricky journey for sure. Now, if this were instrument conditions, we can't really use these particular types of routes. Again, these are preferred routes. And in the real world, they can literally send you anywhere. This is just the ones they generally use. All right, let's do it to it. So we're going to climb inside our helicopter here. We got the Bell today. Great helicopter for this. It's a very, very common sight in New York City. The big thing we have to watch out for, of course, is, all your usual weather shenanigans. And this is kind of a weird angle. I don't know why they have me like this, especially because the wind's coming from the other side. But it doesn't really matter. So we'll go ahead and give it just enough power to lighten up on the skids here. We just want to use a nice gentle takeoff. Obviously, we prefer to do a running takeoff, but we won't be able to because we don't really have the room. And in the real world, there are so many helicopters flying in and out of that area. It's just unbelievable. All right, now we're going to make our journey. So the first thing we're going to see, like I said, this will be the Brooklyn Bridge. Kind of looks like the Brooklyn Bridge. And again, we're going to cross over that and then take our next bridge. Now, the interesting thing here is as we go through this, there's actually a tunnel underneath this. We can't see it. So now one of the things I mentioned earlier is there kind of a challenge of getting over this in order to have enough room and not hit traffic on the other side. So we're going to use just a little bit more torque here and I'll really get this thing going because we want to get nice and safe and cleared over the top of that because we don't want to be too close. Again, good way to scare everybody to death. Not to mention, as we're crossing over the Brooklyn Bridge here, people are going to be looking up at you and you know how it goes. America, yeah. So we're going to cross that very quickly, directly below us. Of course, we can't see that, but it's there. We're going to keep on cruising up here. This is one of the first mistakes. Everybody grabs that bridge. This is not actually the bridge we're looking for today. We're going one more bridge up here before we're going to execute our turn. That's the Williamsburg here. Nice and easy. Again, nothing too excessive. Just keep it right in the power. You can see right off at 12 o'clock. There's the new bridge we're looking for. Generally, when we're flying in this region, again, we have a 900-foot ceiling limitation here, basically off our right. And we would be talking to LaGuardia. We want to kind of stay to the right and kind of let the other traffic kind of go over there to the left as well. All right, so now we're going to begin our helicopter routing itself. Now, this is a little tricky, but fortunately, a lot of it is based on following roads and rivers and things like that to make it a little bit simpler for us to navigate along here. I'm so surprised. Oh, huh. That's something we see every day. All right, let's do it. So now we're going to go ahead and take our right, and we're going to be heading to our first waypoint there, which is going to be the reservoir. Now, as I was mentioning, there's a lot of roads that make this a little bit more manageable to kind of fly along. So what'll happen sometimes is they'll give you preferred routing, because remember, we're going to be popping into JFK's airspace here no matter how much we like. And we're basically going to keep this little runway, of course, it could be in an emergency. We're going to just keep this road kind of off to our right there as we accelerate a little bit. Pick up a bit of speed, and like I said, the key thing with these routes is they really do make it easy for you because they always try to give you some kind of vertical reference on the ground, well, or horizontal, I guess, it's all relative. We're basically just going to kind of follow this for a little ways down. You're going to keep that right off your right helicopter blade there. And we're just going to kind of, do our thing. Again, not too bad. The nice thing about this helicopter, it is pretty quick. It is not like a Sikorsky 76 or anything like that. It's a very fast helicopter. And we're just going to cruise along here, not too bad. So the first waypoint we're really trying to keep an eye out for is going to be the reservoir. Now the reservoir, when I think reservoir, I think of like where I live. Reservoirs are pretty big things. This is like a pond. That's exactly what I mean. And then we are again, and we're going to be crossing over some of this stuff here. Not too much traffic today. I'm actually kind of surprised. It's like 10:30 on a Friday. I would expect there to be a little more traffic. Again, enjoy the lovely traffic as it gets a little bit quieter. JFK is right off our right there. So again, we're trying to stay away from that if we can. And we're just kind of cruising along here. We could have gone down the other option too. Like I said, just going direct sometimes makes it a little easier. Just following the route that we had planned earlier. Just a little bit more torque here. Get a little more speed out of this thing. Probably have a VIP in the back seat, or we're going to go pick up a VIP. So we're going over the Cemetery of Evergreens here. That's what this is right below us. Huge cemetery. And the reservoir, there it is. See the reservoir? Like I said, this thing is a pond from the air. It's not, obviously if you're standing next to it, it's substantially large. But again, that'll be that first kind of waypoint here. Now the nice thing is our next part of our journey is a little bit easier to follow. So I'm actually going to take my left-hand turn here, and we're going to be grabbing onto the road that's just above us. And we're basically going to keep that right on our wing here. Again, we don't have wings, we have rotors. There we go. Nice and straight. You can tell I've been flying too many airplanes recently because my automatic right foot coordination is like kicking in here. And we're basically going to keep on this. Now, if you notice, there's actually two roads here. You have this one on the left, and you also have the one over there on the right. We're basically kind of chilling between these two here. We're not going too excessively. And what you're going to see is we're heading up to Jamaica Station, which is a major train hub here. Yeah, now keeping an eye on the instrumentation. In the real world, the big thing for me would be watching out for traffic, because the traffic would be very real in this particular region. And obviously keeping an eye out for different pieces. It's really a shame you can't fly these with an airplane, because these are like awesomely terrifying altitudes to be operating airplanes at. And if you look right off my 12 o'clock, let me zoom in a little bit here, you can see the station. It is absolutely massive, so you'll have no difficulty locating that particular waypoint there. And again, that's the Jamaica Station. You can actually almost fly direct to Republic at this point, but we'll just kind of keep it going for now. I'm going to give just a couple more torques here. Try to get it up to about 120, so I'm speed with this thing. It's generally what I plan for is about 120. And there's Jamaica Station. Now, the cool thing is, out of Jamaica Station, if you took a look at our initial chart there, if you're following along with us so far, we basically stay on the railroad, and that's one of the nicest things here. If you actually take a look right out of here, you have that eastbound, basically railroad line there, and we're just going to hang out on that and basically stay with it until we get over to the next waypoint here. And we're just going to come to the right just a little bit. Look at that. Again, when we travel these, like in the U.S., we generally want to stay to the right of whatever we're traveling along, just in case somebody's going in the other direction. But again, air traffic control will give them a different altitude, and they'll kind of slot us here. But this is the easiest part of the journey so far. If you found those other two waypoints, like I said, you're up for a nice treat because you can just do a nice, casually relaxing flight here. Not doing anything too crazy. Kind of observe these big old buildings. One of the things I can't stand, or I'm impressed with, I should say, it's not that I can't stand it. It's just the amount of buildings and the density is just incredible. In all the different flight sims we've flown over the years, there are some that do have some density similar to this, DCS, for example. But it's incredible, like absolutely incredible. All right, we're going to start looking out for Belmont Park. Now, Belmont Park is a raceway, and it's pretty easy to see. When we get there, like I said, you're going to see nothing for a little while, and then all of a sudden there's going to be out of nowhere this gigantic track. Now, luckily for us, though, we just have to stay right there with the little lines, and we should be fine. It's always kind of fun. Just a nice leisurely cruise of New York here. On Long Island. It's always kind of fun. Is it Long Island or is it Long Island? I guess it depends kind of who you're talking to and how strong the accent can get. Always kind of fun, sort of a thing. Now, I did fly into Republic once in the real world. It's a neat. It's a busy airport. It is like a private jet mecca. It's not just kind of a neat little spot because again, the flight we're taking right now would not be uncommon for like your New York super execs and stuff like that. It's just easy. All right, Belmont Park. Like I said, you can't miss it. I was not kidding. Look at the size of that. It's huge. It makes it very, very easy to see. There we go. Kind of cruising along. And again, we're staying on Belmont for just a little while here. Now we're staying right with the rail line until we get up to our next major point. This is, what is it, Elmont? I can never remember. No, Belmont. Yeah, Belmont. Big silly here. Nice. I bet you could take a stunt plane and go ripping along that real fast. That could be kind of fun. All right, I'm getting close to our 900-foot limit here. And again, air traffic control will give us a slot. It's maintain at or above, like between 800 and 900 or something like that, to be very specific. Okay, so we've crossed that particular point. Again, we're just staying right to the chart that we've planned a little bit earlier here. Now, this is where things get a little more difficult, a little more ambiguous. So we know we have to stay on the rail here, and we could literally take this thing basically to the end of Long Island if we wanted to. But the problem is we need to execute a right turn when we get to our next destination, which is going to be Westbury. Westbury, whoop, kind of shift us back to the left here. I can tell that my rudder pedals are slightly at an angle here because I'm having a slight bias to one side. That happens. All right, there we go. A little better. Whoop, starting to get high. Again, and helicopters resist the urge to push down on the controls, and when you do that, you tend to chop your tail off. All right, there we go. Again, starting to get into the suburbs for sure. This is the peaceful part of the journey. One of our golf courses over there on our right. Very, very tempting. And like I said, there is a golf course where we're going to Westbury, but unfortunately, that is not going to be the one that we want to use. I mean, I would hate to drive along that road. I feel like it would be so easy. All right, prepare to get psyched out by another golf course. They must have a lot of Starbucks around here as well. And then another spot we're going to be seeing coming up on the right, you can actually see it already, is you have the Roosevelt Field Mall. It's absolutely huge, as well as a Westbury Plaza and all that kind of stuff. You're also going to get this really interesting area off our right. I don't think we can see it from here. Again, I've flown out of New York a few times. We're not going to be able to see it from this altitude. But there's a kind of neat little geometric section. And of course, in a moment, we're going to be crossing over the highway, which is going to be pretty thick and pretty obvious. The crossing the highway, of course, is kind of a heads up that we need to start paying extra close attention to where we need to be here. All right, there's the mall. I just love just basically staying on this road. It keeps it nice and simple for us. Oh, who's playing? Mustangs? Yeah, it's a Mustang. That would make sense. Hence it makes sense. It's the Mustangs. Now, where I live in Connecticut, many of our football teams are all high school football teams are all based on different kind of Greek sort of pieces. It's always kind of fun. All right, crossing over the highway now. Big heavy duty highway here. Even though it looks like it just kind of cuts its way through. Again, who's SimCity this joint? So now we want to be looking out really, really, really hard for our next destination, which is going to be there's going to be a large park off our right, and of course we're also going to be keeping an eye out for basically the mall, I should say, the medical center, which is going to be kind of our terminus there. And I think I found the park. Again, another golf course. There we go. Yeah, I mean, you got to have somewhere to kill your time. So once we cross the golf course here, we're just going to go ahead and take a right turn. This is the hard part, and we're basically going to kind of hover around looking out for the medical center here. I'm just going to level this off here. Like I said, we're basically keeping the park. We're flying over the top of it, which I'm sure the people down below really appreciate it as they're working on their shots. A little bit of turbulence. Doesn't surprise me. Looking out for the medical medical center, which in the real world, it's a bit on the tall side. So that's kind of the clue that it's there. Unfortunately, us in the flight sim, all that's kind of generated, so it's going to be a lot harder to see. We do, of course, have another one. I love that. Yeah, it should be basically right out. It would be right in here. But like I said, in the real world, it's a lot taller, so it would be a little bit easier to see. All right, looks pretty good. Not bad, not bad. This is East Meadow, East Meadow. I found, honestly, that was an easier waypoint than some of our other options there. There we go. And now we're going to go ahead and take a left. Here's going to be the highway again. And we're going to follow the highway. And again, we're just going based on that helicopter route that we plotted a little bit earlier on here. We're just going to stay on this until we get to Republic, believe it or not, which makes it really, really easy for us. So I need somebody to grab a pair of binoculars right now, and I'll start looking out to see if I can identify which one of the points on the ground. What exit are we? Oh, man, you know that that road is a pain to drive on it during the day. Oh, it must be so packed. Oh, that would be insane. And then you got these, like, neighborhoods right next to these, like, really, really heavily traffic road. Imagine how many, like, just places they're on. Look at the parking is all in the back. I don't know, just little things that I notice as I fly. It's one of the cool things that I've always really, really loved about flying. Is, you get to see things from a new perspective, literally. So a Republic is basically going to be right off our nose here. My calculations are correct. We're going to go through Farmingdale, and it's basically right on the right, as you'll see as we kind of sneak up here. And again, you can tell we didn't have a lot of these kind of fields when we were closer to the city, because we really didn't have room for it. I just think it's amazing that as you're cruising over here, somebody's doing literally the exact same thing I'm doing. Just trying to look out and see which team flies for whom or operates for whom here. Yeah, we don't have a team name. Oh, well. All right, I'm going to come over to Plain Edge here in just a moment. And then, like I said, Republic will basically be off the nose. And one of the things I've probably observed after flying a few of these helicopter routes is as you start to get comfortable with one, go try the ones out in Los Angeles, for example. They're very, very weird. This area is very complicated to fly through because of all the airspaces in the real world. We don't have to fight that if you're on VATSIM or something. Don't be surprised if you get bounced around a lot, or if they basically hand you to an approach controller and keep you, because it's just one of those things where it's just easier because of all the different airspaces you're about to violate. Now, in the real world, of course, basically JFK would hand us off already over to Republic. Republic would do something like make right traffic at runway 32 or something like that. And we'd be like, okay, would you like us to cross midfield? If we're very lucky, of course, they could put us on 1-4 there, which is basically going to be just a right turn. Looking right off our nose, you can see Republic's ready to rock for us. Is sitting there looking pretty smooth. Just like I said, not too bad. So as we've seen in this video, the helicopter routes are basically a way to facilitate traffic. The big challenges you probably have observed is identifying individual VFR waypoints that you're going to be responsible for on these journeys. One of the things that a lot of people do, again, if you have a GPS, it's actually possible to program each one of those waypoints individually if you need something to kind of help you out. Another thing to remember is if this was an instrument condition situation, you probably wouldn't be operating these particular routes in this way. The reason being, of course, is if you try to, what are my instrument references going to be? They're going to end up all being GPS references, which are going to make things extra challenging for us. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start slowing us down here. I'm kind of lining us up for the runway. About 500 feet per minute is pretty safe. Looks pretty good. I'm just going to hold the nose up just a little bit. There we go. I'm just going to hold it nice and steady there. And like you can see, we had a pretty good flight. There was not a lot of drama during the whole journey there. The big thing was, like I said, trying to identify those waypoints can be very, very challenging. We are missing out a lot on the fact that we're not getting vectored everywhere by like JFK and LaGuardia approach. And of course, now that we're at Republic, they would probably be giving us all sorts of fun instructions like that as well. But other than that, enjoy.